Welcome to Between Two Coaches, a digital mentors podcast for visionary coaches, consultants, authors, and experts building purpose-driven businesses. I am your host, Norbert Orlewicz, co-founder of Digital Mentors, and in every episode, we're going to dive into real, unfiltered conversations with thought leaders, mentors, and catalysts who are reshaping the way that we teach, lead, and grow. This is about building a brand with heart, a business with purpose, and a life that actually feels aligned. And we couldn't have a better guest to join us here today. Now, this episode, as always, is sponsored by our Digital Mentors Compass workshop. If you are a coach or expert struggling to stand out, enroll clients consistently, or to clarify your message, this workshop was built for you. It's a strategic experience that combines expert mentorship with AI-assisted tools designed to help you simplify your message and sharpen your marketing strategy. You're going to walk away with a personalized marketing roadmap built specifically for your business, your goals, and your voice. Grab your free ticket to the next live session at compassworkshop.com. Again, that is compassworkshop.com. All right, today's guest is Claire Rich from the UK. Claire helps ambitious, driven business owners and high achievers like myself with too much on their plate, I can relate, to find their way to a healthier, happier, more fulfilling, richer life by resetting their subconscious mind. After working for about 13, 14 years in corporate, Claire's own personal experience with hypnotherapy and psychotherapy and coaching sparked a passion in her to bring high-performance hypnotherapy to ambitious, driven business owners and high achievers all over the world, and she's been doing that for the past 19 years. Claire, welcome to this conversation. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here, Norbert.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm really excited to speak with you because you bring an incredible wealth of knowledge and experience to the table for all of our listeners here, many of which are just starting their coaching journey, embarking on this transition. It's something you did 19 years ago and have been doing it ever since. So I'm really excited for you to share your experience and your journey with us. And let's start there. I think what I'd like to start with is what for you was the bit, tell us about the transition, that moment of transformation. You know, all coaches I speak with have stories of transformation, that moment where they had an epiphany, a realization, a transformation, and they knew that they couldn't continue life the way that it was. They had to make a shift and a switch. What was that transformation for you?
Well, I've been working in London for a number of years and I was never feeling fully fulfilled with what I was doing. And like most people, I was doing a fairly lengthy commute of several hours each way. So to do that and not to be even particularly lit up by what you're doing, it's a bit of a tall order and, you know, it's not great for your motivation and everything. So I'd always struggled with a lot of stress and anxiety since a young child. And that was still going on up into sort of my mid-30s. And weight had always been a bit of an issue as well. I wasn't grossly obese, but I did always feel I was overweight and I couldn't seem to do anything about it, even though my mum always had me on different diets and whatnot. And then one day, I don't know what it was, but something led me to go and see a hypnotherapist. And while she wasn't the one who ultimately helped me, she did whet my appetite and make me think, God, there's something really powerful in this hypnotherapy. And she did help me to ease some stress and some anxiety. But I then went on to train with somebody and do my, you know, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy with him after I'd qualified. And that was the real game changer for me. I got rid of a lifetime of stress, anxiety, panic attacks. I lost nearly 3.5 stone in weight. I got myself a 6-pack because I got a personal trainer and I was training twice a week. I'd always been quite active. I'd played badminton and tennis growing up as a child. I lived 2 doors from a tennis club. So I was quite competitive and played in leagues and things like that, but I wasn't really a gym goer. But when I actually hired a personal trainer, who was actually on a business park opposite where I had my office, I started going twice a week, and that really changed my physique more than when I'd lost weight in the past, because, you know, I lost inches everywhere. As I say, I ended up with a 6-pack. It wasn't something I strive for, but it was a real bonus. And, you know, I learned to really love my body and, I felt way more confident, because obviously when you have weight issues, it knocks your confidence and stuff. So then I realized, wow, this is what I've been waiting for to do. This is something, it's so powerful. I've got to share this with other people. And, the journey had been quite long and hard, with the stress, the anxiety. Nobody had ever helped me. I had to kind of figure it all out for myself. And actually, it's not that difficult. It's not difficult to overcome if you know the right approach and get the right expert to help you. So then I trained as a hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, and life coach while I was still in my job in London. And then I basically shifted out of that and set up my own business. So that was a huge transformation, but I then went on to do so many other things and still do. I got over my fear of public speaking. I was on a business course in London, a 6-month accelerator program, and they had a pitch fest.
Yeah.
And I knew when they talked about it that I was going to be seriously out of my comfort zone. But as a high achiever myself, I knew I had to raise the bar and step up and do it. It was really no coincidence that I'd never actually done a talk or anything to any number of people in my business for many years. So I went and worked one-to-one with somebody, which you have to do even as an expert yourself when you really need to go deep. And I overcame, the limiting beliefs I had about putting myself out there, being visible. And then once I'd crafted my pitch, which we were allowed 5 minutes max, no notes, we had to learn it. I basically recorded it into a hypnotherapy session, and I listened to that every day, to the point that by the time the pitch fest came round, I was bored with it. I knew it inside out. I'd been practicing on my step in the lounge to my husband, pitching, pitching, pitching. And, I'd also just recorded it onto a CD and played it every day when I was getting ready in the morning, putting makeup on. So it really got into my subconscious. That's why they say if you want to learn a language or something, put it on when you sleep, because that's how you drip feed it in.
Mm.
So basically, I then went to the pitch fest, and in the morning you were in there with about 50 other people that were on your course, and there were 5 judges, and basically they all sort of decided who went through to the afternoon. So I pitched for the first time in my life, did a public talk, went from 0 to about 50 people, got put through in the afternoon. And then the person who had done the pitch module on the course, his name was Mike Harris, and he created Egg Bank and First Direct in the UK. He basically was the key judge, and I'd visualized him giving me a 9 out of 10. And then there were some other panelists, like a PR lady, an IT guy, someone who was an accountant. And so there were 5 judges in total. And basically I came joint second with a lady who was a well experienced public speaker, because she'd been on a program that we have in the UK, and I think it's in the US, called Dragon's Den, where you
Oh, yeah.
pitch business ideas. And she pitched on that earlier that year, and I came joint second with her, and I had really positive feedback. But more importantly, I got the 9 out of 10 from the chief guy that I'd visualized in my mind. So in the afternoon I actually pitched to over 100 people, because it was in this big hotel in London. And in the afternoon, everybody who's on the pitch fest in the morning, they invite other people in. So I went from never doing a talk in my life to 100+ people in the afternoon coming joint second. So it really is the fast track to success, but you have to recognize that the blocks are all within you. And when you remove them by doing that deep mindset work, the sky isn't even the limit.
So when you say deep mindset work, what do you mean by that? Because people throw that word around all the time, mindset work, mindset work, mindset work. But your specific focus in hypnotherapy, when you say mindset work, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
So I'm talking about not reading a book or listening to, a podcast or a masterclass or whatever. Although you are in hypnosis when you do that, because you've got that focused attention on somebody, just like your listeners that are watching us today, they're in hypnosis. It's a completely natural state. But ultimately, it's about going into the subconscious, where all our programming and our belief system lives, that we've had from early years right up to present day, and identifying those bits of programming that are preventing us from taking our performance to the next level in whatever that goal or area of your life is, whether it's personal or professional. And when we work on one thing, for example, the public speaking that I did, obviously that was a real shift in confidence, but it's not just in that area. When I worked on it for the presentation, it affected my confidence in all areas of life. So it's doing that rewiring of the physical brain that's having us do what we've always done. And in my case, it was creating the fear. So I wouldn't even allow myself to do a talk to 2 or 3 people in the past before doing that work.
Yeah. So, I mean, because we've hear things like visualizations, right? And affirmations and vision boards and things like that. And, obviously we read books and we listen to podcasts. But when we're doing actual hypnotherapy work, what does that look like to somebody? Because I know when you talk about, you mentioned Jim Rohn. I
Mhm.
remember a time in my life earlier on in my career, I was exposed to Jim Rohn, and I would just listen to his CDs on repeat in my car over and over and over again. And I always say I was like reprogramming my brain just by listening to Jim Rohn. Is that a
Yeah.
form of hypnosis? But what's the deeper? Because I've never actually worked with a hypnotherapist myself. So what can I expect if I work with an actual hypnotherapist?
Well, probably the first thing to mention is that not all hypnotherapists are trained in lots of different methodologies.
Mm.
So you could go to a hypnotherapist, but you need someone that's got lots of tools in their box and that are going to tailor the therapy uniquely to you and your goal. Because if you get a one size fits all approach, that's where we then hear people go, hypnosis didn't work for me.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So basically, we've got, without getting too technical, there's suggestion therapy, which is what you mentioned. So it's self-hypnosis, listening to an MP3 download, a CD, and it's sort of like, I guess, a guided meditation. But what's very different is it's more powerful because it's subtly getting you into the relaxed state, whether you're someone who never stops, you've got such a busy mind. It's not about clearing your mind like meditation, because basically it's very difficult to think of nothing, because thinking of nothing is thinking of something. And as soon as someone tells you not to think of relaxing, all you can think about is not relaxing. So with my work, I'm trained in working with different personality types as well. So even at the basic level with my MP3 downloads, they are specifically allocated to the different major personality types. There are 3. And then there's like a general one that's pretty good for everybody. So when I've worked in groups, I'll do the general one, unless, of course, I've got a group that are very similar in personality type. So most of them will work for everybody, but there's kind of an order, and your major personality type is always the one that's going to work best for you. So what we're actually doing, as I say, it's a bit like a guided meditation. But if I've got someone, like a lot of my clients, that are very driven, very ambitious, they don't stop a lot, their mind's going 100 miles an hour, I'm not going to do what we call an induction to get into the session, where I just go and take a deep breath and relax every muscle from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, because one personality type will be off and gone just doing that, but mine will be like, you what, they're just too ramped up, they're going 100 miles an hour a lot of the time. So I'll use more of a confusional one, or one that stimulates their brain. So it's
Mm.
very powerful with suggestions to sneakily get them into hypnosis. Now, don't get me wrong, I can't get them in hypnosis if they don't want to be hypnotized. That's a really important point, because you are always completely in control.
Right. I think that's a bit of a misunderstanding that some people have, because we see it on TV shows and we see people just like fall into hypnosis. And that's really not what we're talking about here. But it's interesting that you mentioned that about different personality types. I never made that connection, that different styles of hypnotherapy would work for different personality types. I was actually listening to a self-hypnosis last night when I was relaxing in the bath. And it
Mm,
was very different style. It was one that I wasn't used to, and it kind of confused me. And I think it was one of those confusion style ones, because like,
mm,
oh, this is different. And it didn't work for me at the time because it kind of threw me off. It wasn't what I was
mm.
expecting. But I can see now how there's different styles to get through the different personalities and the different ways that our brains work.
Yeah, and that's where, not all hypnotherapists you go and see will have those skills. You know,
Right.
it's like basically suggestion therapy is the basic level stuff. So why it's more powerful than meditation is because once we get you into hypnosis, so we've done the induction, we've done what we call the deepener. Basically, then we do the work. So what's the goal? Well, it might be just relaxation, stress busting, it might be improving sleep. All of those things happen when you go into hypnosis naturally anyway. But if it's our specific goal, then obviously we can use suggestion therapy. But sometimes people will need more than that. The
Hmm.
suggestion therapy isn't enough because, say, they're an insomniac and it's so ingrained, it feels like they've always been like it. They can't switch off. They're what we call hypervigilant. Their subconscious doesn't let them feel it's safe to stop and rest, which is why they have problems sleeping. I mean, don't get me wrong, high achievers can create their business plan in their sleep. We've all done that. But I'm talking about not being allowed to relax and get any rest so that you
Yeah.
can be effective and productive. So, suggestion therapy is the basic level, which, depending on the person that's done the MP3 or whatever, most of the time you're not going to get a personality type related one. You're going to get a one size fits all. It's going to be a very general relaxation that assumes that someone relaxes very easily. And that's why I always had great success with clients because I always specialized in stress and anxiety, and I was always trained to get that person into hypnosis, assuming they wanted to be hypnotized, because obviously they're there to work with me. It
Hmm.
didn't matter they were having panic attacks or they couldn't ever relax. Once they decided they wanted to do it, I talked them through what to expect, what not to expect. Ultimately, they found that they felt quite comfortable quite quickly. And then within a few sessions, even the most stressed out person would relax. But there are so many different ways we can work. I've got a proven system whereby we use the personality type archetypes to actually help you to achieve your goals. I do regression where we go back to childhood. It really depends on the individual. But what I'm saying is you have to research how long that hypnotherapist has been doing it. Did they do a weekend or a month training course? Have they done a year, 2 years? Are they experienced in different methodologies, or are they just going to roll out the same thing for every issue that the client goes with, regardless of their personality type and how long they've struggled? Because
Yeah.
if you are, that's why we hear stories of, oh, I couldn't be hypnotized, I couldn't relax. I can hypnotize anyone as long as they want to be.
Right. Yeah. Now you had an interesting journey, and you've got several resources that we're going to share with the audience here, especially our high achievers that are listening right now. There's a quiz that you've got, and I guess you've got some downloads as well. So we'll make sure that we share all that. But I want to talk about your journey a little bit because when you started in coaching, you initially started focusing on like stress, anxiety, weight loss. What was it that transitioned you to now focus on high achievers specifically? What was the inspiration behind that, and what did it look like for you to transition in your business?
Yeah, well, I just noticed a type of client that I was working with, very ambitious, very driven, wouldn't necessarily consider themselves a high achiever, very authentic, humble, and honest, but very tough on themselves, very high standards. They might feel that they were having a day where they worked really under par. And I would have to say to them, your bar's up here, the average person is here, and you may have been down here today, but you were still way above the average person. So, I understand that personality type. I'm a complex mindset myself. I've never had easy clients. If I did have, I would probably be quite bored. That is my norm, to have clients that have a lot of stuff going on and we need to unpack it all. But the great news is that in the mind everything is connected. So we work on one thing and it has a ripple effect on everything else. So complex clients have never fazed me. And after working for many years specializing in stress and anxiety and weight loss, I started to really move to working specifically with business owners, entrepreneurs, high achievers, very ambitious driven people, because I see that there's a huge gap in the market for high performance hypnotherapy. It's not fully understood what it is. It's truly the secret weapon. It even surpasses traditional coaching, where even today I had a call with someone who's been tied in with a coach for about 3, 4 years. And we had a call 18 months ago, and his goals when he applied for a call with me again after rewatching my masterclass recently are exactly the same. He's not moved on, and yet he's still tied in with the coach who's taking his money. Had he invested with me, he would have gone beyond where he wanted to be by now. But he's still stuck and still doubting whether mindset work can help him. The coach is helping him with sales, referrals, all that sort of thing. That's not what typically someone comes to me for. I'm working with them on the mindset stuff. Why are you struggling to get sales and leads? Why are you struggling to convert prospects to close deals and clients? Why is your confidence not where it needs to be up here? But obviously 19 years in business and working 13 odd years in corporate beforehand, I've been on both sides of the coin. So we do talk business. I could teach someone high ticket sales because I've gone through that process myself. But he's missing the one single biggest needle mover in that, he's investing, but he's not investing in the right place. And he's kind of said to me today, because I said, I can't work with you if you're still working with a coach. It's counterproductive to work with two people at once, even though your coach isn't doing mindset. Every week he's toddling along, having a call, and they're just chatting and shooting the breeze. Well, if he hasn't learnt what he's needed to in that coach in 3, 4 years and got where he wants to be, it's time to move on. But he's sort of rankling with the idea of not doing what he's always done and not really seeing that the missing piece is the mindset. You can always go and learn the skills you need to know as a business owner or outsource, but you can't, get somebody to change you. And ultimately, we're always our own block. And when we get out of our own way, the sky isn't even the limit. It really is the fast track to success.
Yeah. And as one of those coaches that teach marketing and teach skills and teach the tactics and the strategies behind marketing, we always know, and we always say amongst ourselves that we know that it's the mindset that's the root, right? We have clients that have been struggling with some of these techniques, and it's obvious and clear to us. It's not the technique, dude. There's something deeper that's holding you back, some kind of resistance that you probably don't even see. And that's what you're talking about here, is really getting at that root. And you're saying that even traditional coaching, certified ICF coaching, it's great, but it doesn't get at those roots because we're asking questions and it's like talk therapy, right? But that's the difference between talk therapy and actually reprogramming the subconscious, which is what you're talking about. And I love the term that you coined, high performance hypnotherapy. So
Mm.
I don't know if that's a term you made up, but I haven't really heard it before. So let's just say that it's your term, high performance hypnotherapy. When you say that, when you communicate that solution and you say that's the secret weapon, what have you seen that secret weapon create in other people's lives with the clients that you've been working with?
Yeah, just huge shifts. I mean, the amount of times that I have clients tell me, I wish I'd done this sooner. I'm just thinking of a guy, he was a marketing director for a company in London and he worked remotely most of the time and he had a team, but he also had a side gig business and it was something completely different. I don't remember what the marketing was for the corporate business now, but it was, the sideline was making horror movies or something, and he had like a membership portal for people interested in that. And he noticed that he was, his energies were very split because obviously he had a full-time job. He also had like a daughter from a previous relationship. He was trying to, navigate all of life's usual challenges. Um, and basically, it took him a little while to decide to sign up for my Richer Life program, which is a 20-week program. I've created that because I've seen that for the majority of people, 20 weeks is a good enough time to really identify the blocks and the barriers and help you to achieve your goals. And clients get 3 main goals with that, but they always achieve way more because, as I say, everything is connected. So we took down his goals. As I say, it took him a little while procrastinating to decide to go ahead and invest in himself. And then when he did, at the end of the process, I read him back his 3 goals. And he said to me, do you know what? I can't even recall where my head was at when I signed up for your course. He said, my life is so different now. I'm so much calmer. I'm so much more focused and in control. We'd kind of tweaked his diet a little bit, just small things. It wasn't horrendous, but the Rich Life program covers three core areas: mind, diet, and exercise. And he was, running a lot in the morning, but he wasn't eating before he'd go out, and it was quite early. So we got him just eating a healthy snack with protein and fat, and it would just powered his performance better. So we looked at all the areas of his life, as well as the three main goals. And he was like, it took me a while to commit and to invest, because it wasn't like so many people. He'd invested in other courses, he'd read endless books, he'd listened to free webinars, masterclasses, even done group programs or one-to-one coaching, but he hadn't had the traction. And it was because he hadn't done the deep mindset work. And the performance program I offer is very tailored to the individual. So although we've got the three core principles, and the mind is the foundation of everything, it's the most important. We work at every goal from the mind, whether someone's drinking too much coffee, eating too much junk food, not sleeping well, not getting to the gym enough, or whatever they enjoy as a physical exercise because they've got too much on their plate. They leave themselves to the end of the day and then they're too worn out to go and do it. We're always working from the mindset point, because it's those subconscious programs, fears and limiting beliefs that are actually preventing us from getting to where we need to be. So really working with that market, it's still doing what I've always done,
Yeah.
helping with stress and anxiety and performance, just sort of framing it up in a different way. And I have to do that, which you'll understand as a marketing expert yourself, because many high achievers don't want to admit that they're stressed. Some don't even realize they're stressed because it's their norm to be go, go, go 100 miles an hour all of the time. So, they're always the ones with lots of responsibility, spinning many, many plates, juggling lots of balls in the air. And, they're the ones that actually need a lot of help, but they're not ones that will ask for it. They're also the kind of people that are going to help me to get my mission out there in the world, because they're the ones that are the trailblazers that will say, okay, like I did, there's something in this hypnotherapy. Not everybody's talking about it. Not everybody's tweeting about it, but it will be the best thing since sliced bread, just like the Wright brothers with flying was, one day. And I'm going to get on that bandwagon now, and I'm going to be a trailblazer that gets there with it, because I know that there's something powerful in this, and I don't have to wait for the evidence for everybody else to be doing it, even before science catches up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that vision that we have. I think we've got similar minds. I mean, as you speak, I think there's a lot of listeners that are resonating with, as you describe this high achiever. I think there's a lot of us that can relate to that. I want to talk about your journey as a coach now for the people listening to this. What were some of the let's go with this. What were some of the challenging things at the beginning of your career? Like in those first few years where you transitioned to start your coaching business, if you were to, speak with the coaches now looking to start their business, what would you tell them? Like, what were things that you wish somebody told you that you wished you knew at the beginning of your career as a coach, that you think would help them? Because it's tough out there, especially right now. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people trying to be a coach, especially online. You've been doing this for 19 years. I mean, that is incredible to be able to maintain that business for so long. What's some advice that you would give to people just starting out right now? What do they need to know?
Well, mindset, that's your number one business tool. And if you're a coach, a therapist, a hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, you should know that. You've got to be walking your talk. How can you expect people to invest in you if you don't invest in yourself and it's your business? The second thing is, and this is no surprise to you, you've got to be marketing. Whether you like it or not, you've got to wear that hat. And if you don't want to wear that hat, you've got to quickly generate the money to invest in someone that can do it for you. Because you'll always be trying to be everything and everyone to your business until you earn the revenue to allow you to have experts to support you so that you can do what is your zone of genius. And the thing that will burn any business owner out is trying to do everything and not being in your zone of genius, where even if you're worn out, even if you're exhausted, you light up when you work with a client and you find that passion, that energy, that drive, that happiness and fulfillment. There's nothing more to turn that off than sitting doing your accounts or your website or whatever, because that wasn't why you got into being a business owner in the first place. But basically you can learn all those things, you can hire people to do all those things. What you can't do is get somebody else to master your mindset, and you're not going to be aware of all of those blocks. But let me tell you, being a business owner is a roller coaster. It's got highs, it's got lows, and it is the biggest catalyst for you to be on that road for personal development. Rise to that, then you will potentially end up going back to a job or working, for somebody else, because it really isn't for the faint-hearted. High achievers do what it takes.
I love that you said that. I've always said that as well. Entrepreneurship is like a secret personal development course. Like, you don't realize that when you decided to be a coach and start your own business, you didn't realize that you just embarked on the greatest journey of personal growth, because it forces you to grow. I mean, every single day you're faced with challenges and obstacles and setbacks. How have you handled all of that? I mean, you've transitioned from, I can imagine 19 years ago, we didn't have the internet the way that we do today. So the way that you got clients when you first started, I am sure, is very different than the way you get clients today. I mean, you're in the UK, I'm in Canada. We connected randomly through LinkedIn through a connection request. Here we are doing a podcast together. And I went through your masterclass that you sent me, and I've reviewed your website and stuff. And you're doing some really smart marketing strategies. You've got the masterclass, you're focused on LinkedIn, you've got a great process to move people through. Where did you learn and develop all of this stuff? And what works for you today that you had to change and develop and grow as a person to implement?
Yeah, well, when I started out, and I don't know if you have this in Canada, but we had the yellow pages, which
Oh
was
my
a
God, yes.
and I used to advertise in that and obviously do leaflets. And I can remember going round town with my mum, putting them on people's car screens and things like that. But that was more when I marketed in my local area. I always kind of marketed sort of outside of that. We have different counties in the UK. So I thought, well, anyone that could drive up to an hour, that's sort of reasonable. But then comes sort of COVID. Just prior to that, I'd actually let my office go because my journey hasn't been smooth. Although I turned my life around, the blowback from the stress I'd had up till my mid-30s came out in an autoimmune disease in my early 40s.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've actually had to navigate that in the last 10, 12 years, and, kept my business going at a time when I couldn't work very much. And, I had to let my premises go because, I was paying a huge amount in overheads. I'd been there 8 years. Initially, I'd work from home. Then that was a step up, getting an office. And unfortunately, my dad got ill with lung cancer. So I was ill, my dad was ill. Marriage was rocky because we were under so much pressure. All the life stuff that
Welcome to the
comes.
Middle Ages. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm a therapist, so I've got to do it hardcore, but it's what makes me good at what I do and why I can help people, because I understand that the journey isn't linear. So, COVID came, I was already back home because I'd let the office go. So in hindsight, as Steve Jobs would say, I connected the dots, and
Yeah.
I was devastated to let the office go in 2017. But come 2020, I would have had to let it go
Yeah,
because no one could have came and seen me
that's
for
right.
a long time. At that point, I'd had a lovely office, reception area, office for my computer, lovely big consulting room with sofas and recliner chairs. And I believed that you had to have hypnotherapy in my space where I could control it with my equipment, my biofeedback meter, my music, my recliner chairs. I partnered up with my personal trainer who had a big personal training studio opposite my premises in 220, and I created a resilience training program for his members. He had about 150 members, and we got about 50 plus on my training course. And that was my hard, fast lesson into the world of Zoom and online coaching and hypnotherapy space. And it worked really, really well. We promoted it together. We got everybody on board, and then I created a presentation every week. It wasn't in my comfort zone because I was literally creating it the week before the lesson. A lot of entrepreneurs work like that. I'm a bit more of a planner, but needs must, and it all came together, and it worked brilliantly well. And that was when I realized, half an hour high performance coaching and then half an hour high performance hypnotherapy to a group of 50 plus people with music coming through on Zoom, people in COVID laying on their floor with a pillow, laying on their bed, in their armchair, and at the end of the session, when I'd count everyone back up and on the count of 5, open your eyes, fully alert, fully aware, feeling normal in every way, there'd always be 1 or 2. And I'd be like, Bob, because they were so relaxed and chilled that they didn't want to open their eyes, because my strap line with some of the marketing was legally escape the lockdown with my sessions, because we're escaping it in our mind. We were focusing them on where they wanted to be rather than listening to the news. You can't go out, you can't do this, life is rubbish, it's not going to change in the near future. We had to shift people out of that,
Yeah.
where they want to go, and
Shift out of one hypnosis into a better one, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, people wanted that escape, because in the beginning you couldn't even do anything more than go out for a walk or a run once a day.
Yeah.
So, for some personality types, bringing it back to that, some would embrace it and love it, and the others would be like, either kicking and screaming and having a row with their partner, or if they were both the same personality type, making mad passionate love all the time for fun, because they have so much energy that they've got to drive that somewhere, and being confined in that space was just too much for many people.
Yeah.
Many people went to dark places in lockdown because they are people, they are visual people, they need in-person contact. Some people are little hermits, aren't they? They like to be indoors. Not everyone likes to be indoors all the time. And of course, our freedom was taken away. So we had to focus their mind on where they were going, that life wouldn't be like this forever. And that was what the resilience training program was all about. So I was so impressed with how well it worked online that I've not been back since. And of course, now I can work with anyone anywhere. I don't actively market outside of the UK. But I've worked with a client who was based in Miami. I've worked with someone in Australia. Obviously, the bigger the time zone, the trickier it is. But this is what tech makes possible. Great when it works, pain when it doesn't. But, it makes so much more possible. And now I can market to anyone, anywhere. I'm not limited to my area. People don't have to drive to me. And yes, I do occasionally get calls from people that want to come to a physical space. I get that. You have to have a reliable internet connection. You've got to have a safe space where you're not going to be interrupted. No pets or anything like this. Although I did have one lady in lockdown who had 2 dogs, and they would be hypnotized and jumping around the sofa. Navigating that was fun, but she had more problems locking them out than she did having them in with her. So, it's all doable. Those are the main criteria: good internet connection, safe, comfortable space where you won't be disturbed. Or if you have a family, sign on the door, tell them not to disturb you for an hour. And, it works just as well. Obviously, I give people guidelines how to set up their space. Because we're not doing the whole session in hypnosis, but, like I'm sitting at a desk now, we can chat doing the coaching at the desk. It's always nice to move to a more comfy chair, if you can, for the hypnotherapy, because you're going to relax more. You're not going to get a stiff neck, all that sort of thing. But, with the right pre-talk and setup, it works just as effectively.
Claire, that's an incredible journey. I just love how your business journey has grown and changed so much. And then you were forced into a big transition in 2017, and then going through COVID, and here you are now building your business online with clients, really all over the world, which is amazing. Share with us what you've got, what you've put together for high achievers, for probably the majority of people that are listening to this call right now. You've got a score app, like a quiz, an assessment, and I think you were saying there's some downloadable meditations as well, and of course the masterclass that you share. So just tell us a little bit about what you've created as far as resources that we can access.
Yeah, well, the MP3 downloads, they're actually a small investment. They're like £30
Cool.
for a download that you've obviously got lifetime access to, put it on whatever
Nice.
device. And all you need to do are answer 12 questions. Then I can assess what is the major personality type for you. And then you get the relevant MP3. So there
So
are
that's what the quiz is for, is to answer those first questions.
Yeah. So there are 12 questions which are for me to assess your personality type. I do have others, but it's an easy way for that. I think I've got it on a video. You answer and then you send me your scores, and then I do a calculation and work it out. Sometimes people aren't giving me the true answer because of the limiting beliefs and different things, but generally they get the best one for them, or I can tell from their scores. So that's a small investment. Normally I give that to clients, they buy that when they finish working with me because they want to carry on with the stress management, the hypnosis. But then there's the free masterclass. I've done many, but at the moment, the one I've got a replay of that I'm promoting is the High Achiever's Secret Weapon for Success Without Sacrifice, which obviously you watched. That's a 60-minute masterclass. And then from that, there's a special bonus gift to do the High Performance and Success Instant Breakthrough Checklist. So as you work through the questions, there's about 35 questions, takes a couple of minutes. I mean, at most 5 minutes to answer the questions. As soon as you've answered the last question, you get the results sent to you. And you get sort of a report, and it actually indicates your status. Are you a high achiever? Do you have untapped potential, or is it limitless growth? So
Mm.
that's kind of the different levels. And then it'll also identify the areas that you need to work on and where you're at with those statuses. So mind, diet, and exercise. As I say, the mind underpins everything. It's the core foundation. But that scorecard will give you probably some light bulb moments as you go through and answer the questions. But you're going to get the report emailed to you after as well, and that's pretty instant. You'll have to do that one, Norbert. I think you'll find it interesting.
I think so. So for people that are curious about hypnotherapy, you've got your main program, which is 20 weeks, and that's for the people that are ready for their transformation. But for someone that's just curious and they're like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I've heard about hypnotherapy. I've never experienced it. How can they get started with you, or maybe just experience a session with you? Do you do that for clients?
Yeah, I've got my bronze, silver, gold, different options. So I've got a Richer Life Discovery session, which is 2.5 hours. So if someone wants to do a longer program, but they want to get a feel for it, maybe they want to flesh out their goals in a bit more detail, get some clarity as to what they want to work on, and sort of get an experience of working with me, that's a 2.5 hour session. Then there's a VIP day, the Richer Life Experience VIP day, which is about 7 hours. Obviously, we can do some work in that time, but then if you really want to get results, you've got lots you want to work on. I've got my 12-week program, which we meet for 90-minute sessions once a week, every week for 12 weeks, obviously online via Zoom. And that's the Richer Life 90-day Mind Maximizer. So you get one main goal on that. You will achieve more than one thing, but just one main goal. Then the core premium program is the Richer Life program, which is 20 weeks. As I say, that gives you the full shebang. In order to achieve peak performance and success, you need to cover those three core areas: mind, diet, and exercise. And there are layers to them, stress, relaxation, sleep, diet, nutrition, how you're fueling your body, how physically active you are, if you exercise, what you enjoy. You don't enjoy it, well, we've got to discover what you do enjoy, because then you're actually going to want to go and do it.
Mm.
You have too much on your plate, we've got to actually figure out what those limiting beliefs are that are stopping you from stopping and doing something for you. Because on a logical, conscious level, we know that stopping, taking time out to refuel, recharge, rest will bring us back more effective and productive. But high achievers find it very hard to stop, especially when they've got a lot on their plate.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire, you're speaking to us all. I think most of us listeners here can really relate to what you're talking about. This has been a fantastic conversation. You've shared so much of your wisdom and your experience and insights of actually running a business for 19 years as a coach, the ups and downs, all of it. And I'm really excited that you were able to share this with us. And I'm excited for people to take you up and listen to that masterclass that I went through as well, and actually go through the quiz. And maybe for the first time, if you haven't experienced hypnotherapy, maybe this is the opportunity for you to really try it right now, and have that experience for yourself. Because it's one of those things, you can talk about it, you can read about it, but it's really something that you have to experience for yourself, isn't it? With someone that has the experience of someone like yourself.
Yeah, and it's just knowing that we go in and out of hypnosis every day of our lives.
Right.
You know, even those stage hypnotists that get hypnosis out there, the hypnosis is exactly the same. All you don't see is the fact that the hypnotist is whittling out all the people that are like, no, not me. They go to the toilet or something when he's trying to select his suspects. He doesn't want them anyway. He wants the outgoing, lively personality types that are up for a laugh. They want to be the centre of attention. That, you know, they're game for anything. And, you know, they're the people that he will pull out. And let me tell you, they know exactly what they're doing. They are always completely in control. But when they come off the stage, having made a fool of themselves, doing whatever the hypnotist has got them to do, they will say to other people who, let's be honest, most of them have never done it, so they can't dispute what they're told, will go, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. I was out of it. I wasn't in control. He totally hypnotized me. They knew every single thing they were doing. They would just, who's going to get up there and then go, sorry, I'm not doing that. They've wanted to get on that stage in the first place. They know it's a show. They want to entertain people. The hypnosis
Oh,
is exactly the same. It's just
yeah.
I'm using it to empower my clients to help them to get to where they want to be. And probably an important thing to end on, circling back to why it's different to standard therapy or coaching, where often goals aren't set at the beginning to measure where you are now to where you want to be, and it just dwindles on forever. At the end of the day, you know, it's about empowering you. I'm simply a guide to help to get you from where you are now to where you want to be in the fastest way possible. All the answers are in your mind. I'm simply going to help you to identify those blocks and overcome them so that you can get on that fast track to success and achieve your goals with minimal stress and ease. Why drive through life as if it's like you've got the handbrake on and success feels difficult? It's not easy. It's because you're bumping up against your own limiting beliefs, subconscious programming, and we all have it regardless of the life we've had. You don't have had to have a bad life or a privileged life, you know. Programming will creep in that it's going to sabotage you, and the subconscious mind is timeless. So something that you learnt when you were 5, 10, 15, the mind is still adhering to that programming. It doesn't realize you're 40 years old and that's no longer serving you. In fact, it's hindering your success in
Hmm.
business or whatever. So, you know, it's about you empowering yourself. And whilst clients come back to me, they never come back for the same goals. It's because they realize there's something really in this, and it's helped them to get to where they want to be fast because they've mastered their mindset.
Beautiful. Facts. I love it. Claire, thank you so much. This has been a really great conversation. I appreciate you sharing your time with us,
Oh,
sharing your insights and your experiences as a coach. We're going to leave all of the links in the show notes, in the description. Check out Claire, clairerich.com. She's on LinkedIn. You can connect with her there. Check out the masterclass and the resources she's got for you. And if you're a coach, consultant, trainer, or expert, and you're struggling with your marketing strategy, attracting and enrolling enough clients in your business, then join us for that next Digital Mentors Compass workshop. Again, the link for that is compassworkshop.com. And please, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your network and your audiences. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more episodes. We would really love your support as we're growing this new podcast, helping to reach more people. Claire, thank you so much for being here. This has been a conversation between two coaches.